Welcome back. This is Decoy here with another Warframe guide. I have been doing a lot of little guides. I know that there are other people out there doing some stuff, but I feel like they're not heavily in depth. I personally like a heavily in depth explanation similar to a job when you're training. So today I'm going to do a longer form video on modding. I'm not going to kind of show you every mod that I've placed. I'm just gonna have 3 different loadouts with 3 different configurations on Excalibur Umbra, which you get from doing quests. So if you're watching this video, you're either A, kind of at the end game of Star Chart and you're trying to figure out how to make your weapons better, or you're B, you're kind of doing like sorties and you've gone into the circuit, or you really want to like look at the potential of Steel Path, or C, you're like myself where you're literally getting everything lined up for Steel Path and you're just playing the Easter egg game that I call it, which is collect all the stuff before it gets hard. So I'm once again here in the simulacrum. You get it from Cephalon Samaris. I would highly recommend getting it. It does help, but I'm using Gara Prime right now. That is not who I'm showing off. That's going to be kind of the final evolution of everything we do. So first off, we're going to start. Let me go ahead. I'm going to load this loadout. Okay, so here we're going to go. We're going to make sure everything is on config A. Now, if we look here, there's some survivability mods. Maybe your Excal looks kind of like this if you're at near the end of the star chart. You don't really know what to do. But let's go ahead and look at the... Now, Excal is a faster moving frame. He's kind of in and out. So let's look at Bore Prime, which is a shotgun. Kind of probably... You figured out some element stuff by now. You got Toxic and Chill, and then you've put some other stuff on there for damage, maybe some critical. These are the AK Prime Magnus. They have the AK Magnus. There's just, these are the Prime versions. So yeah, you're like cool, putting out quite a bit of damage. That's great. You got some of these other things taken care of. And then his Exalted ability, you're like, okay, cool, good, awesome. Okay, if that's where you're at in the game, awesome. I'm gonna go over a few things right now. So Excal, he's in and out. I mean, his first ability is slash and dash, so you're literally flinging yourself toward enemies, but it does mean that you need a level of survivability. So health and armor, you get that from these 2 umbral mods, which you get with the quest. You have a melee aura mod, great, awesome, and some recharge, cool. You kind of hit all of these. You're thinking, okay, cool, I'm doing pretty good. Got it. Same thing with your weapon. You're like, oh, I'm hitting all of these. Now, as you look at your arsenal here, I've paired weapons with the way Excal works. I'm not using a sniper rifle or a real point and shoot kind of weapon where I have to like stay in one spot to hit, because he's not a tank. He's not there to just stand there and mow down enemies. Same thing with the pistols. I'm not using something where I've got to like, I'm trying to hit multiple targets that are surrounding me. He's not a CC frame. He is a light CC. He's more of a direct encounter, leave, come back. Broken War is a phenomenal weapon, hands down, like amazing across the board. Quick, easy, and then Exalted Umbral Blade lets you have a distance slash when you're swinging your sword around. But if I was to throw, I'll give you an example. If I went on here and I threw on a bow or something that was more like a rifle, or this rifle, I'd be a little bit more, I'd have to be more strategic in how I fight. With a shotgun, it's boom, boom, boom. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, as I continue, this is all going to change. I just want to show you guys what happens. I have 3 versions of this weapon of what it turns into as you get further along and kind of right up to Steel Path. This is not one of my main weapons. You'll see one of my main weapons on Gara when I show Gara, but I do have to Forma if I ever really want to use any of these weapons at their max. I'm showing you how they work. So let's go spawn in level 80 enemies, just normal here. So again, if you finish the star chart, you're getting into the more endgame normal content. I mean, that's not bad. You know, I can still move. It's got a bit of a lot of reload. Might want to deal with that at some point. And then I, you know, use certain abilities in there. Great. Cool. That's going super duper well. Oh, but my pistols are doing phenomenal. So that's good. That means that while my shotgun is designed to, you know, apply damage to multiple enemies, let's say you come across an Eximus unit and you want something that you can switch to. Perfect. So I've got both equipped. I don't have 2 giant AoE exploding weapons. I've got something to cover, you know, clearing multiple weaker enemies, and then I've got something to deal with those more tough units. Now let's take out my melee here.
Takes care of that.
Not bad, you know. Obviously they're frozen and this is just giving me realistic damage numbers. Okay, cool. I'm definitely taking out enemies along the way. You know, nothing. Cool. Let's go ahead and do, you know, his 4th ability. Pair that with his 1st ability and he just keeps going. So you got some crowd control, but you know, he's not the most ability spammy. You know, he's not Saren or Volt or Protea.
Gotcha.
Great. Awesome. So that worked pretty decently. Let's raise this up 5 levels. Spawn him in. Let's go change everything to the next config. So if I go here, these have gone up just a tiny bit. I've changed the mods out. Again, all these mods you can get. Prime mods are pretty much from Barockateer. I threw on a random Exilus mod because you might do that. Sometimes you want to play around with it. So from this mod to the next config, I'm bringing up the crit, and the status is going down a little bit. Sorry, my screen is going to do that. It's just the way my setup is. And then on this, I'm aiming more for status and less for critical. Broken War, I'm going hard into critical, less on status. Okay, so here we are going from config A to config B. I leaned a little bit more into status. So let's see. What are we going to be against? And these are just kind of your normal enemies. I'm not doing any Eximus units or anything. Level 80, they got some armor. Okay, so now the boar is really applying some damage here. And I have a Panzer Vulpaphyla, which applies viral, which really helps. especially when enemies are grouped close in actual missions. It's going to spread more and more. Oh, I got a bigger damage number there. I'll switch to my pistols. Yeah, and now these things are just absolutely absurd. They're not automatic. I turned on a setting in the settings that lets you single fire shots do fire like automatic, so I don't have to keep pulling the trigger. I am on Xbox. I just want to make everyone know that. And I am MR29, so I've got some time in the game, but I haven't even really touched Steel Path, so it shows you that I've been really trying to play that Easter egg hunt I talked about. Okay. Let's do our melee weapons. Let's go to the Broken War.
Target is down.
Much faster. Not perfect, but again, they are level 85. Okay, let's do his Exalted Blade and abilities together. So all it took was a few different mods and not focusing on one in particular. Melee is kind of always hybrid. It's both crit and status, unless it's really like, and I'll give you an example. Unless it's like this number is like 12 and this one is 40 or vice versa, then you're going to lean into one more than the other. Now, the other thing that I didn't do on these newer builds, I still have this base damage on that one. Same on this one. Same on this one. And this one. But see what happens. Let's see what happens. I go to config C. I don't have point blank on the shotgun. So it looks like my total is dropped. But I've leaned further in to multi-shot status, and I have a little friend over here. So it's an arcane. It's primary merciless. So every kill, on kill, I get 30% damage for 4 seconds. It stacks up to 12 times, and I get plus 30% reload speed. So same thing. You go from config B to config C, and the damage drops, but the status has gone way up. And they're secondary merciless. Broken War. The total damage drops, but I'm I'm doing a bigger hybrid. Yeah, there's some other mods that I need to invest in, like these two. And then, but I have melee influence, so I'm trying to get rank 5, but on electricity status, 20% chance for elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within 14 meters. For 9 seconds. So it doesn't refresh while active, but if you get a big enough chain going, it gets crazy, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. Melee influence. Now I leaned on this one more into status than I did crit. Now, would I change it around a little bit? Yeah, but I'm still probably going to be running viral on my melee to a degree. This one I'm not, because I have a secondary melee. So I'm really on the Broken War aiming to trigger melee influence, not the viral, because I get viral from my companion. So now I also want to show you config C. So I've got chromatic blade, I've got survivability with rolling guard and vitality and umbral fiber. I've gotten rid of my energy. I don't have flow on here. I did have it on the last build. I'm not using it on this one, because I'm going to rely on Arcane Energize. 60% chance to replenish 150 energy to self and allies within 15 meters. So I have 225. If I use one ability and pick up an energy orb, there's a high possibility I'm back at max. Then Arcane Aegis. Anytime my shield is damaged, there's a 3% chance for a 30% shield recharge for 12 seconds. So that's my survivability, is these two slots, my arcanes. If you don't have arcanes, that's fine. I'm showing you the potential. So everything should be on that C. We're going to keep it at this level 8, you know. Okay, so let's start with Exalted Blade. And look at that. That's melee influence, people. Right then and there. I swung like twice, and they're done. Now, the reason I'm talking about grouping is because normal mode fails to tell you about the grouping of Steel Path. Steel Path and higher tier endgame modes, even in normal, are going to group you. If you do not have your Arsenal ecosystem connected correctly, you're going to be missing buff timers and keeping yourself alive, you know, rolling guard, keeping that level of immunity, you know. I have 7 seconds before I can use it again. 7 seconds doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're being attacked by 50 enemies, it can be. So I'm going to show you this one more time, but I'm going to pair it with his slash and dash. So 2 abilities done. Now let's do Broken War. Again, these are still normal enemies. Not bad. You know, no Exalted Blade, but I didn't build it to compete with Exalted Blade. I made it its own thing. Could I change it? Could I put viral on there? Yeah. That's obviously part of it, but part of it is knowing that I'm not just throwing on, you know, an added slash damage mod or impact or buzzkill for slash. I'm letting these numbers speak for themselves with the added status damage. So if I go to status on here, electricity is only 11%, slash is 28. If I switch this up, if I take that off, electricity is now 12% and slash is 16. So if I had enough, I'd probably put condition overload on, or I would even just do shocking touch, because now the status for electricity is 19. So let's see if that did anything. Summon these enemies back again. Go to the Broken War. Much better. Because my electricity is now higher, they have now chained everyone. So that's an important switch that I just did. Let's do the Boar, because it's got Merciless. So it's going to take a minute for it to kick up. But once that Merciless Arcane procs, and it keeps on stacking after every kill, your numbers just keep up while you're killing. Are there some like reload stuff I might do? Yeah, but... So this is right here is a good example of what I meant by normal mode doesn't group enemies right. This is an example of normal. You kill the whole room, and then you've got to run down some hallway to get to another group of enemies. Steel Path, and I know this from playing the Steel Path circuit and some of Earth in Steel Path, the enemies continue to spawn. They keep coming at you. So you can keep your buff time up. You can keep that Merciless counter going. Let's do my secondaries. This is going to be really mean. And if I'm pairing this with other abilities, there goes the room. I've got melee influence, galvanized shot, galvanized diffusion. And then 2 of them up there are... Oh, it's not showing the other ones. That's weird. But 2 of them are the Merciless in practice. So now you're probably thinking, okay, well, what about Steel Path? So Steel Path is 100, it adds a bunch of modifiers. So let's do the earth ranking of enemies. We'll start with the boar. And you might be thinking, why aren't you using your secondary if it kills quicker? Because if I run out and I need to switch to it, and I have an Eximus unit coming in, I'm not leaving myself to chance. And this is why I don't need to use flow. If you see all those energy orbs on the ground, 25 energy, but it filled me all the way back up. I'll show you. If I just... hope I keep getting it because it's all over the place. Okay. Now, let's see. Same enemies. Let's use my dash ability. A little bit more resistant. And am I going to change some mods as I go through Steel Path? Yeah, but I need to know about what my damage can bring as a number. Let's do it again, and I'm just going to use his Exalted Blade. There they are, all dead. Okay. Now, that's all great and all. I'm not telling you to copy the build. You know, Xbox, you should... on Xbox consoles, PlayStation, it's a little harder for us to do some of the things that can happen on PC because they just have smoother input and less... You know, I have to hit left bumper for stuff. I have to hit right bumper for certain things. I have to... You know, I only have so many fingers, whereas on PC you can do a few other things. So min-maxing your build is a little easier. But I just wanted to show, I really wanted to show people kind of what modding and understanding modding really is in this game. Not just, hey, use this, it kills everything. Because if you go play something like the Circuit, you're going to get thrown random loadouts and you'll have no idea what to do and which guns work for which kit. Because you'll go, well, my big giant Torrid and Karnan works great with my Volt because I can run at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But Torrid and Karnan wants to work off of status spreading, so Volt can spread electricity. If you get stuck with Rhino, yeah, you can kill everything, it's great, but you're not proccing the next level as you go further into the game and enemies are more difficult to kill. If you're spreading a status or you're inflicting damage and you add on to that with like something like Torrid and Karnan, it's better. If you're Rhino, you might want just a giant, just a rocket launcher or the Archoplasma or something. Now, I want to show you guys... Oh. I'm going to show you guys Gara here. So Gara's got way more setup. I mean, I'm like solely ready to go deal with whatever comes my way. It's a lot of endo investment. I'm going to give you that part way up ahead. But because I'm MR29, I can do this with the enemy level. Again, I'm just doing your normal. Let's go to the melee. It's got inherent electrical damage, so... And that's all of them. Now imagine 60 enemies in a near vicinity. If I get that to max rank, I think it goes up to... I'll double check here. I think melee influence... Yeah, so it goes up to 20 meters for 18 seconds. So, I mean, that's decent range in general. Now, if you've played Gara before and you didn't know who Gara was, or you didn't really like her kit, or they updated her, her first ability is now more like an exalted weapon. And it has a very similar melee build, but it's gross. This is absolutely disgusting. I hit that. I did that 3 times. I didn't even do the buff that makes it even better. If I do her Splinter Storm and run over here. Bye. That was twice. Gar is not, I'm not out, it's not, I don't have something that does like 700% ability damage. I'm just going based off of the fact that in Steel Path, enemies stay alive a little longer, which means anything involving status gets to go a little bit further. Let's do it again, and instead of tapping it, we're gonna hold it down, which does a sweeping effect. That was 2 sweeps, and they're all gone. I didn't even show you I showed you my melee. Now, let's do Sea-Doo Prime. Again, this isn't beginning Steel Path. I don't know what I was waiting for. In all honesty, I'm just showing you what happens when you play around with the correct elements, the correct modding. You get that. That was dirty. Now, Gar is pretty much stationary CC. She's great for, you know, objective. If there's like a defense module right here, or you're trying to close down an area, you know, for survival or mobile defense. So I wanted a quick shotgun that could deal heavy damage. But then what I really wanted was to be able to proc this and then go in with Kuva New Core and just use... You can see all the buffs I have in the top corner. That's just what's going on right now. That's it is what it is. I'm going to show you one other thing. Where is he? I'm going to keep the same weapons. I'm not worried about the weapons, but his landslide, same thing. Again, 175 Steel Path enabled, 20 of them. Here we go. Okay, cool. Now I have his augment that makes his rumblers become body armor for me. And then I'm gonna do petrify. And now I'm gonna punch. If melee influence doesn't sound good, I'm telling you right now, it's great. Let's go to Cora. Where is that? Here she is. Cora got the same kind of thing. Her whip claw. Yeah, she has a secondary companion who inflicts other damages, but if I just cast Ensnare, and she's another CC frame. So she'd benefit from Sea-Doo Prime and Kuva New Core as well, because that's her fourth, is the Strangle Dome, to keep everybody in place, tie them up, that whole thing. So, as you can see, Cora, same thing. Oh, there's my cat in the background. Let's see something here. As you can tell, I would be, a lot of my frames, I would be putting corrosive projection on. I just have this on here because it's universal, so it lets me build out all this stuff below. But a lot of my frames have that same similar generalized build with a few things that are switched out. I'm not min-maxing, as I said earlier, so I'm, you know, trying to kind of hit a point where when I go into Steel Path, which I will be streaming, I actually am able to kind of use any frame depending on the situation. I'm trying to think if there's another crazy... Oh, I wanted to show this. This to me is kind of broken. Well, 175, the steel path. I'm gonna go to Shadow Grapher, and I'm gonna go to Arc Trap. I'm speechless. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say to that. It's 3 arc traps and it deletes like 20 enemies. So, and I'm not, again, fully is modded in a very particular way. That's just basic stuff right there. There's nothing crazy about this. There's no, you know, there's strength isn't like 220% or anything like that. I gotta put this on. You know, I'm not using, I could use this, but actually, no, it wouldn't work because it's for weapons that are characters that use toxin to make corrosive, and the attacks are already corrosive, so it wouldn't benefit me to use that. But like Volt, I could use that. Electricity damage restores 2 energy over 5 seconds. Great. So... But that is kind of, that's at least with the frames. Weapons, you can kind of go for a few other things. I know that, like, Incarnate weapons are going to be a little bit crazier. This is already pretty crazy. This, I've gone completely for the 136% status. Electricity is 52. If I go to, and this is what I would probably do in this case, if, oh, where are you? Here you are. So if I can't inflict viral as easily, or if I'm trying to inflict something, I might pick a frame that backs up my weapons if I can't fit it on there. So there's Doom. And there they go. Bye. If I go to my supreme weapon ready for annihilating steel path, it's gonna be these two and this, and I'll just show you. He's got Uriel. I'd go for him if you can get to that point. It's innate healing, and then he's got he doesn't have a spamming fourth, but now might I change some stuff in the future? Yeah, but I'm trying to get his heat proc to okay, let's do this one more time. Now they're gonna just drop. So I'll just go over this real quick one more time. Basically, what I am going for is I'm focusing on the fact that normal units don't group the way that Steel Path enemies group, meaning the density is different. So if you've built up your weapons and you still feel like you're dying, or some of your buffs aren't proccing, it isn't to do with the fact that you're not strong enough. It's to do with the fact that normal mode doesn't reward you for having it. In fact, enemies die so quick that things like melee influence, or as you just saw, heat, they don't spread as quickly, so you might only get 2 or 3 enemies, and then you're like, what's going on? I've appreciated the fact that I've just been able to test and see, because I think if I didn't test it out, if I never decided to get the simulacrum, I think I'd still be playing normal mode with no hope of ever getting to Steel Path, and I'm MR29. Like, what am I doing? So I know it's been a long video. I appreciate you if you've stuck through to see the end. Look out for I've got one stream that'll be up. I'm going to be doing a bunch of prep work, just random grinding, and then I'm going to do some fashion framing. That's probably going to be the last part of the stream, is fashion framing all of my frames so that I can then run the circuit, which I need to do this week. So, and then I've got another stream that'll be coming out, which is me literally running Steel Path. I'm starting on the first mission on Earth. I've already completed some of Earth, but it might also include me going to my arsenal for that frame and updating stuff to see if I can survive. I'm probably going to do all of Earth, Venus, and Mercury solo, so I can really test my survivability before I just have random squads come in and destroy everything. So, thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.